create a Department of Disaster Risk and Resilience. So naisip ko lang yung situation for a dedicated Department of Fisheries, because ang reason why hindi na umusad itong bill na to sa Senate was because there are senators who were opposing it on the basis of cost. Kasi sabi nila, sa Pilipinas, alam naman natin din yung paano mag-operate yung mga departments. They tend to be inefficient or magastos, tapos hindi naman ganun ka-effective. Whereas with the current setup sa disaster and DRRMC, wala talagang department na mini-maintain. These are the cabinet secretaries convene, but because informal nga yung pagka-convene, katulad ng sinabi mo kanina, yung mga interagency agreements, walang nangyayari because they have their own portfolios. They're busy dun sa trabaho nila. Kaya pag kung ano yung pinag-agree, parang walang accountability, di ba? Walang gustong mag-take on the day-to-day work na mahirap. So, paano natin i-reconcile yung cost involved with having a Department of Fisheries that's dedicated, or baka nga hindi sufficient na Department of Fisheries lang, baka dapat Department of Marine Resources, because katulad ng sinabi nga natin, pati yung energy, Department of Energy, I think will have difficulty just overseeing it themselves, 'di ba? Na marami na silang ibang sa portfolio nila of work. What are your thoughts on this? Anong palagay mo po na magandang compromise to also make this solution realistic?
Yeah.
Consider, alam na natin track record ng mga ibang senators na sasabihin na naman nila magastos yan and it's not necessary.
Correct. Yeah, well, tama ka, Karen. That's one thing you learn as you grow much older. Tulad nung bata ako, halos utopian mag-isip, sana ganito. Oh, what's the ideal? Now I start talking of, ano ba ang pwede given the existing arrangement, the existing culture, the existing people we have. But yes, minimum, because that was my experience sa government kasi talaga, in the end, while you can seek partnership with others, in the end, sinisingil ka sa budget mo at sa iyong performance. So without that, mahirap. That's why you cannot have an interagency or a council, either that or a department. So I think you'll have to look for a combination na baka may not simply secretariat, really a lead a department, pero pwedeng dagdagan ng to some extent parang ang TESDA ganyan eh. TESDA is a distinct agency, pero may board siya na interagency, so malinaw yung execution. That's one. The other, and I think we should and that's in terms also of cost but also capacity. Siyempre, if you think of a department as implementing things from a top-down centralized way, not only is it expensive, malamang inefficient and ineffective. Kasi when it comes to fisheries and in general also agriculture, we should combine the principle. And I've talked to some very good professional bureaucrats here. And when it comes to agriculture, food, land or fish, you must do two things. It should be science-based, but it should be site-specific. Kasi iba-iba, even storm patterns are different. But then maybe the third, which they tend to miss out, it should have a very strong market component. Alam mo talaga. So I think a law that should craft that should integrate into it a very strong role for the relationship of the central national agency and the local government. So hindi yung lang arbitrary, bahala na lang kayo. I-set natin yung division and collaboration between both national and local. And with the Mandanas ruling giving local governments a bigger share of the whole resource and not just internal revenue, I think that could be part of the conditionality that can be added. That's two. But ako, personally, I think the third element, which applies to all of government and all of nation, is we really have to harness well already the power of information and digitization. Because in the end, lalong-lalo na agriculture and fisheries, yan seasonal, cyclical yan. You cannot plan that like minsanan nationally, nagbabago especially with climate change and also with market, nagbabago-bago. So I think, yes, if we approach proposals for a new department in terms of traditional, baka sasabihin, ay, ang laki ng gobyerno, dagdag na gastos yan. Together with the need for that, we should add already the elements of the innovation about relationship of national and local government, the relationship of public sector and market, and the relation between physical, just education, face-to-face, and digitization. Kasi ang pinakamahalaga rito is accurate but also timely information, including potentially big data because wala namang boundaries ang fish. Pupunta yan kung saan-saan, no? And you cannot capture that simply by national collection. So we have to collaborate. In fact, as far as I know, I was told by, I think one we interviewed, former Ambassador Manalo yata, na
Yes, the
one
mother
area where China and the Philippines have been collaborating, and it's not well known, is precisely on a common sharing of understanding of the resources in the West Philippine Sea and the South China Seas. Pwede naman pag-usapan. Data lang ang pinag-uusapan, magkasundo tayo anong nangyayari dyan. When should be the close fishing season, alin na gano'n. So there are possibilities, but I will be the last to say, alam ko na maraming kasali lang ako sa magpo-propose ng ilang ideas. But I think many others should also think of it. Ang mahalaga is to put it on the agenda as one of the priorities. Not in terms lang of need, may problema, but opportunity. Kasi alam mo, tayo Pilipino mahilig, lalo na kami NGO, mahilig gagahanap ng problema para kailangan tayo. Pero a lot of people, especially our younger people, they want to talk of nasaan ang possibilities, where can we innovate? And where can we grow? And where can we earn? And where are the appreciative inquiries? Saan pa tayo meron at meron pang potential? Hindi lang saan tayo kulang at talo. So something like that.
Rather than dwelling on the problems, hanapin kung ano yung mga opportunities.
Yeah.
So kanina, Ed, you mentioned nga that we should leverage on information and technology. In countries like Africa ngayon, they are training their farmers to use cell phones, mobile technologies, to really also improve yung yield nila and the ability to access markets. So very helpful sa kanila. They've been able to increase the productivity of farmers by having these apps that they can access on their phone and being able to connect with the market so that mabenta agad nila yung mga naani nila. And then also the digital currency, meaning they get paid digitally. So parang madaming solutions, and that's again for the farmers, but then why not for fishermen, right? Like fisher folks. So anong palagay mo ang reasonable within the short-term period, yung pwedeng gawin ng gobyerno natin to really, start looking at these opportunities? You came from TESTA before, so merong skills training, but then when it comes to initiatives like this, sa ngayon ba, sa current setup ng gobyerno, walang iisang department that can really take the lead on this? What about the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources?
Yeah, well, as I said, let's start with what we have. Binanggit naman sa interview mo nga na we both have the BIFAR and we have the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority. So magsimula tayo ron, no? But I think it's important for, I would say at this point, someone in the office of the president to take the lead. It could first be simply a cabinet secretary. Well, we don't have a cabinet secretary, but a lead person para, alam naman natin sa Pilipinas, sino magkukumbin kanino? But if it is seen declared as a policy, the priority ito, and while we look for a more appropriate organization, sa existing ones, sino? And I think crucial dyan, including magiging role ng DILG. Kasi yung usapin ng, I really feel that call it the short-term type of gains possibilities will be at LGUs or inter-LGU collaboration who can put together both the preservation and maintenance of sustainability, but also yung post-harvest Like I give you one simple example. May 1 month na raw may 1 month pilot, and it's a Filipino inventor who talks parang ala container van type, solar powered, tapos nagpo-produce ng ice. Hindi lang nagpo-produce ng ice, kinakrush ng ice para kasi ang trabaho pa yon. So parang may storage agad, may cold storage ang mga fresh marine catch. I'm waiting for the results. 1 month success. Can you imagine? Addresses, solar, so hindi dependent sa rural electrification. Manageable, small size, no? And then, but then ang next tanong okay, pasaan yan? So you now have to have the linkages, and you need now the combination, as I said, of the corporate sector, the buyers, but also LGUs that will be supporting that. So there are possibilities within our system, but because instead of waiting for a perfect solution, grand scale, and it will take a long while, maghanap tayo ng intermediate na pwedeng gawin agad. And like anything, pwede naman magsimula muna on where it's most capable. Like I remember one time, I think in the Batara sa area, Southern Palawan, no? There was a time, ginagawa nilang daing ang lapu-lapu dahil
social.
walang bentahan. Ginawa ni na Director Asis noon, binigyan lang ng cold storage facilities para yung fresh lapu-lapu mabenta pa nila sa Hong Kong, Manila muna ang naboto sa Hong Kong. Kung minsan ganun kasimple ang possibilities, ang mahalaga lang is where the information and where can agencies within their mandate and their resources can respond. And there again, crucial yun kasi ang nagbigay ng information hindi lang yung Fisher-Folk or local NGO but also the LGU. So mahalaga yung relasyon ng local government at national government, yung relasyon nila.
Well, I think napaka-productive nitong usapan natin kasi short of having this dedicated Department of Fisheries, or let's call it also Department of Marine Resources, merong mga low-hanging fruits na pwedeng gawin na ngayon na, which includes having initiatives directly from the local governments, and now that they have more autonomous power, including sa budget with the Mandanas ruling may magagawa sila at their level. And do you think that at the macro level naman, when it comes to national security, dun sa the way forward, may mga na-interview na mga fisherfolk that are very concerned sa territorial dispute because meron silang personal experiences na talagang pinapaalis sila sa areas na kung saan sila nangingisda. So, ngayon na, like you said, sa APEC, isa sa pag-uusapan. Next week, dadating si US Vice President Kamala Harris, and they've announced that one of the talking points that she will have is also on the West Philippine Sea territorial dispute. Ano pong palagay nyo as someone who has spoken to the people on the ground, yung maaaring magawa ng government immediately, hindi lang yung parang puro usap, pero yung pwede talaga nila ma-execute that will make a difference to our fisherfolk?
Well, actually, interestingly, kasi dati, one of our board members was the former ambassador to China natin, si Chito Santa Romana, no? And I was so happy nung nalaman kong ang ninominate ni Bongbong na kapalit niya ay si Jimmy Flor Cruz, who was the colleague of Chito Santa Romana, stayed there as a student activist, stayed there for decades, and then so speaks Mandarin. So I think, first of all, we have an interesting asset doon because ang usapan ni Chito sa amin, alam mo Ed, wala tayong magagawa. China will declare his position, we'll declare our position, tapos wala nang pupunta dyan, no? Git-gitan yan. But then sabi niya, in the meantime, pwede natin mag-negotiate. Pwede ba mangyalanon yung aming fisherfolk to peacefully ganyan. Nag-agree naman in principle ang China. Pero i-check mo yung i-check mo kung nangyayari. That's one. The other is, sabi naman ng lahat talaga, China also uses primarily its coast guards and its fisherfolk. Tayo, ang liit-liit ng Coast Guard, kaya dapat palakasin yun. Kasi pag ginamit mo na hindi yung white ship, kundi gray ship, parang away na yan, gera na yan. No? So I think the Coast Guard should be strengthened and the relationship to and the fisherfolk really appreciate that. But the third one, again, alam mo naman, there are layers where you can discuss. I think there can be areas of, as you said, technical and academic collaboration. And that's where it has to be multilateral, hindi bilateral ang Philippines, China lang. Hindi lang naman tayo ang players dito sa West Philippine Sea, marami pang iba. So mag-agree tayo dyan. Ano dyan ang common na pag-usapan natin, parang yung tinatawag rin, although they related to geopolitical security, about code of ethics and all that, there can be a code that is more comprehensive, lalo na in the light of climate change. Sayang yung resource na ito, pagtulungan natin. And then the private sector can do their own diplomacy. Hindi lang naman players ang states. I think there are, and you know that, they always say that people who trade do not fight kasi naghahanap sila ng paraan magpatuloy. And I think that's where potentially, slowly, we don't have that big commercial fishing sector with a global perspective. I think hopefully that is the other thing that we can encourage, even under the current circumstances. And I'm happy to note that there are more and more very interested in it, not just for their own reasons, but also they feel para wag ma-reduce to geopolitical aspects ang kundi tingnan rin ang collaboration at cooperation. Ang idea naman is walang perfect solution one way or the other. Hindi naman fight, talk, kundi usapang-usapan and then trade where we can, collaborate where we can. It's not the best solution, but sometimes it's the one that can work. Pero it takes people to have, ako talaga, kung tinanong mo ako, nung bata pa ako, hindi ako mag-iisip ng ganito. Ngayon, nag-iisip ba ito dahil tumanda na ako, napapagod na ba ako? Or at
marami ng wisdom.
May natutunan ako na kailangan
I
pwedeng gawin.
Very timely yung advice ninyo. And now, sayang, kulang na sa time. I've been getting notice na 2 p.m. na, but I can't believe how time flew by so quickly. Ang dami nating na-cover. And I thought nga na, marami pa tayo cover at ngayon nabitin pa ako sa oras, and I'm sure our viewers also nabitin din. So thank you so much, and your advice is very timely, especially since we have these foreign talks and then even a state visit from the US that will be talking about this issue. So thank you so much, and we wish you good luck with the future advocacies of PRRM, and very, very much so for the fisher folk. So maraming salamat po. Edicio de la Torre, President of the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement.
Maraming salamat din, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and join us again tomorrow at 1 p.m. dito po sa Kontra Birada on Radio Bandido. Good afternoon.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.